The legendary love story of Freddie Mercury. Queen's lead singer, Freddie Mercury, and the enduring love he held for his best friend and soulmate, Mary Austin, became one of the most famous and unique love stories in British music history. The singer's former fiancé became the Queen star's confidant and life partner, and it was to her that Freddie Mercury dedicated the song, Love of My Life. The very private Mary Austin has lived quietly in Freddie Mercury's beloved London home, Garden Lodge, since his death in an upstairs bedroom in 1991, when his will left her the house and everything in it. But today, at 73 years old, Mary Austin is breaking her silence, leaving the world in shock. Who then was Mary Austin? The identity and early life of Mary Austin. Mary Austin, born in 1951 in Fulham, London, is widely known as Freddie Mercury's former fiancé and lifelong confidant. Raised by her deaf parents, Mary communicated with them through lip reading and sign language, a unique aspect of her upbringing. Although the romantic relationship between Mary and Freddie ended when he came out, their bond remained unbreakable. Freddie often referred to Mary as his only true love, and she stayed by his side until his death in 1991. Mary didn't participate in the production of the 2018 movie Bohemian Rhapsody, but she reportedly gave it her approval. Her enduring relationship with Freddie Mercury and her private life at Garden Lodge, the house he left her, make her a figure of fascination and admiration for Queen fans and music lovers alike. The first encounter in London. How did Freddie Mercury meet Mary Austin? The remarkable relationship between Freddie Mercury and Mary Austin began in 1969, 1 year before Mercury formed Queen, with his bandmates Brian May, Roger Taylor, and later John Deacon. Born Farrokh Bulsara in Zanzibar, Tanzania in 1946, Mercury moved to England with his parents in the 1960s. Mary Austin, born in 1951 into a low-income family in the Battersea district of South London, was the daughter of a wallpaper hanger and a domestic worker. Both of her parents were deaf. Mary and Freddie met for the first time while she was working at the trendy London clothing store, Biba. Mercury, having just finished art school, worked at a nearby clothing stand in Kensington. Initially, Austin was hesitant about Mercury's sometimes extravagant personality, but they quickly became a couple, living together in a small apartment while Mercury pursued his music career. Life before international fame. He was like no one I had ever met before, Austin told OK magazine in 2000. He was very confident, and I had never been confident. We grew up together. I liked him, and everything followed from there. Mark Blake, author of Is This the Real Life? The Untold Story of Freddie Mercury and Queen, noted that she seemed very down to earth. They quickly got together. Apparently, they had known each other for a few months, and then suddenly they were living together. When Mary Austin began her relationship with Freddie Mercury, he was still far from international fame, and their lifestyle wasn't particularly glamorous. They lived in a tiny studio and did normal things like any other young couple. Yet things continued to evolve both in the couple's personal life and in Mercury's career. Austin took time to become attached to Mercury, despite the fact that they started living together almost immediately. As she explained, "It took me about 3 years to really fall in love, but I had never felt that way about anyone." The rise of Queen and a star in the making. In 1972, Mercury's band Queen signed its first record deal and had its first success. The couple was able to move into a larger apartment, but it wasn't until Mary Austin saw her boyfriend perform at his former art school that she realized their lives were going to change forever. Seeing him perform in front of an excited crowd, she thought Freddie was so good on stage, like she had never seen him before. For the first time, she felt she was watching a star in the making. Austin was convinced that this new celebrity status would push Mercury to leave her. The very evening she saw him perform at the school, she tried to leave so he could be with his adoring fans. Mercury, however, quickly caught up with her and refused to let her go. As Mary Austin remembers, "From that moment on, I realized that I had to go with the flow and be part of it as everything took off. I watched him blossom. It was wonderful to observe. I was so happy that he wanted to be with me." Queen quickly became a world-renowned band with Mary Austin by the singer's side the whole way. The memorable Christmas proposal. Mercury's marriage proposal was unexpected. The couple finally moved into a larger apartment on Holland Road in London in 1973, The same year, Queen released their first album. Freddie asked Mary to marry him in a memorable and playful way. When I was 23, he gave me a large box on Christmas Day. Inside was another box, then another, and so on. It was like one of those playful games. Finally, I found a pretty jade ring in the last little box, Austin shared with the Daily Mail in 2013. Uncertain of what was happening, Austin asked Freddie which hand she should put the ring on. He told her the left hand, and then asked her to marry him. I was shocked. It was really not what I expected. I simply whispered, "Yes, I will." In the following years, Queen's fame grew with the release of the albums Sheer Heart Attack in 1974 and A Night at the Opera in 1975, which included the ballad Love of My Life, reportedly written for Austin. While the band's fame reached its peak, so did Freddie's. His wild hair, bright smile, flamboyant costumes, and eccentric performances, combined with his nearly four-octave voice, attracted crowds from all over the world to see Queen perform. The end of the romance. However, she would never officially become Freddie Mercury's wife. At that time, their romance had reached its peak. The couple was engaged, and Mercury had declared his love for Austin to the whole world by dedicating the song Love of My Life to her. Queen had experienced immense international success, and the days when they shared a small studio seemed far behind. Austin believed that Mercury was gay, not bisexual. However, just as Mercury's career was reaching its peak, their relationship began to fall apart. After nearly 6 years with the singer, Mary Austin realized that something was wrong. "Even if I didn't really want to admit it," she explained. At first, she thought this new distance between them was due to his fame. She described how when she came home from work, he just wasn't there. He would come home late. We were no longer as close as before. Mercury's attitude toward their marriage had also changed drastically. When she timidly asked him if it was time to buy her dress, he said no, and she didn't bring it up again. The honest confrontation and truth. She would not become Freddie Mercury's wife. She decided to confront Freddie about it. "I told him something was going on, and I just feel like I'm a burden to you. I think it's time for me to leave," she remembers in OK magazine. Mercury insisted that nothing was wrong, but Austin noticed their relationship was cooling, just as the band was finding incredible success. Freddie was coming home later and later, most nights, and Austin suspected he might be having an affair with another woman. However, in 1976, while he was already an international star, he decided to talk to her about his evolving sexuality. "I will never forget that moment," Austin told the Daily Mail. "Being a bit naive, it had taken me time to understand the truth. Afterward, he felt good to have finally told me he was bisexual, although I remember telling him at the time, 'No, Freddie, I don't think you are bisexual. I think you are gay.' An unbreakable bond beyond romance." This revelation ended their physical relationship, and Austin moved into a nearby apartment purchased for her by Mercury's music publisher. Despite this change, she remained an integral part of the band's inner circle. She accompanied them on tour. There are photos of them together backstage at concerts until the end of the 70s, at a time when they were no longer a couple, explains biographer Blake. Freddie was, for all intents and purposes, a gay man. It's a very interesting part of their story, having lived together as a couple with her believing at one point that they were going to get married, then having to accept the fact that he was sleeping with men. Despite this, they remained such good friends for so long afterward. She stayed in the band's circle because she was the most important person in his life. Mercury confessed to feeling relieved after telling Mary Austin the truth. The couple called off their engagement, and Austin decided it was time for her to move on. Separate lives, but a constant presence. Mercury, however, didn't want her to go very far, and he bought her an apartment near his. Although their relationship had changed, the singer still held great affection for his former girlfriend, explaining in a 1985 interview that, "The only friend I have is Mary, and I don't want anyone else. We believe in each other. That's enough for me." Mary Austin eventually had 2 children with the painter Piers Cameron, although Cameron always felt overshadowed by Freddie and eventually left her life. For his part, Mercury maintained a 7-year relationship with Jim Hutton, although the singer later stated, "All my lovers asked me why they couldn't replace Mary, but it's simply impossible." Austin remained by Mercury's side until his death. She witnessed the life of excess that Mercury led, embracing the rock star lifestyle fueled by substance abuse and casual flings. Meanwhile, Austin charted her own path. She had two sons with Piers Cameron, Richard, of whom Mercury was the godfather, and Jamie, born shortly after Mercury's death. Caring for Freddie. During his illness, although she never married Cameron, her marriage to businessman Nick Holford ended in divorce after 5 years. Despite the evolution of their personal lives, Austin was never absent for long from Mercury's life. She reportedly worked for his management company and remained a constant presence, especially in the years leading up to his death. When Mercury was diagnosed as HIV positive in 1987, there was no effective treatment for the virus. He died from AIDS-related complications on November 24 in 1991. Mary Austin and Jim Hutton were both by Freddie Mercury's side after he contracted the virus. At the time, there was no cure, and Austin and Hutton cared for him as best they could. Austin remembered how she sat next to him for hours every day. Whether he was awake or not, he would wake up, smile, and say, "Oh, it's you, Old Faithful." He kept her close to him when he fell ill, explains Blake. The fact that she was so well taken care of in the will, receiving the house and a share of the royalties, says a lot. He essentially left her everything as if she were his widow. Mary was good at keeping him grounded. She was there before the money and the fame, and she was there at the end. Eternal love and final wishes. Looking back at Mercury's death, Austin says she lost someone she considered her eternal love. "When he died, I felt that we had a marriage," she told OK. "We lived it for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health. You could never let Freddie go unless he died, and even then, it was difficult." Austin supported Mercury's decision to keep his illness a secret until shortly before his death. He also entrusted her with the task of collecting his ashes and placing them in a private location, a secret she still keeps today. Respecting his wishes, Austin waited 2 years after his death before discreetly moving his ashes from the house where he died. She still lives in that house, surrounded by many pieces of furniture chosen by Mercury. He didn't want anyone trying to dig up his remains, as has happened with some famous people, she told the Daily Mail. Fans can be deeply obsessive. He wanted it to remain a secret, and it will stay that way. The legacy of two soulmates. Despite the unusual circumstances of their relationship, after Mercury's death, Austin stated, "I lost someone I thought was my eternal love. This proved that love often takes the form of two soulmates who trust, care for, believe in, and understand each other completely." When Mercury passed away in 1991 from AIDS-related bronchial pneumonia at the age of 45, Austin was by his side, as she had been for much of his adult life. Did Mary Austin have children? Mary Austin has 2 children with her first partner, painter Piers Cameron. The couple welcomed their sons, Richard and Jamie, during their relationship. Freddie Mercury, close to Mary and her family, was Richard's godfather until his untimely death. Mary and Piers never married, but their relationship lasted until the early 1990s. She then married businessman Nicholas Holford in 1998, but the marriage ended in divorce in 2002. Despite these changes in her personal life, Mary's enduring bond with Freddie and the life they shared remained a constant. Mary Austin's life today and the auction. Where is Mary Austin today? After Freddie Mercury's death, it was revealed that he had left Mary Austin half of his $75 million fortune, including their precious $25 million Georgian mansion in Kensington. Mary continues to lead a quiet life in this house, although fans visit it regularly. The lavishly decorated interior of the 28-room mansion has remained largely unchanged since Freddie's time. Mary, who personally designed the interior with Louis XV furniture for Freddie, sees no reason to change it. However, in a surprising move in 2023 that stunned Queen fans around the world, Mary announced her decision to auction 1,500 of Freddie's items, including costumes, instruments, and handwritten lyrics. In an exclusive interview with the BBC, Mary explained the reasons for this major decision. "The time has come for me to make the difficult choice to close this very special chapter of my life," she said. "I must put my affairs in order," she continued, adding, "I decided it wouldn't be right for me to keep these things. If I was going to sell, I had to be brave and sell everything." The financial success of Bohemian Rhapsody. Mary Austin received more than $60 million thanks to the success of Bohemian Rhapsody. The 2018 movie proved extremely profitable for Freddie's family and for Mary Austin, his beloved companion. Mary received over $60 million through a provision in Freddie Mercury's will. Upon his death in 1991, Freddie had decided to allocate 50% of his future income to her. Since Mary inspired the famous 1975 love song, Love of My Life, the other half of his income was divided between his parents and his younger sister, Kashmira Bulsara. Bohemian Rhapsody tells the life story of Freddie Mercury, the charismatic lead singer of the legendary British rock band Queen. With box office revenues exceeding $900 million, it was one of the highest-grossing movies of 2018. Kashmira Bulsara, Freddie's sister, received about $25 million, while the other members of Queen collectively earned about $90 million from the movie's success. The untold story of Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody highlights aspects of his life that didn't appear on screen. Yet there are many facts about Freddie that even most fans have never heard. Here is the untold truth about Freddie Mercury. 1. Freddie's homeland no longer exists. Freddie Mercury was born Farrokh Bulsara on September 5, 1946. According to Britannica, his parents, Bomi and Jer Bulsara, were Parsis. Both had migrated from their native India to Zanzibar, Africa, where the future Queen singer was born. The fact is that Zanzibar is no longer a place, or at least no longer a sovereign nation. According to Britannica, this small island just off the east coast of Central Africa had been a British territory during the first half of the 20th century. In 1963, it became an independent nation while remaining a member of the British Commonwealth. However, this status was short-lived. In January of the following year, a communist revolt led to the overthrow of the Arab Sultanate in the establishment of a republic. The indigenous Africans, the majority of the population, then ruled the territory for the first time. But that didn't last either. In April of that year, Zanzibar and Tanganyika united to form the modern nation of Tanzania. The Bulsaras fled the country when the revolution broke out and resettled in Feltham, England, in West London. There, Mercury finished his teens, attended Ealing Technical College and School of Art, now part of the University of West London, and later met the other members of what would become Queen. 2. Freddie Mercury loved collecting stamps in his childhood. Freddie Mercury, known for his legendary music career, had an unexpected passion in his youth, collecting stamps between the ages of 9 and 12. According to the British Postal Museum, young Farrokh Bulsara amassed a notable collection of old stamps, now featured in a traveling exhibition. Mercury's approach to collecting stamps was both meticulous and eclectic. He organized his stamps in his album using different methods, by size on some pages, by type on others, and even by color or inscription elsewhere. If a particular page lacked the right stamp to complete his pattern, Mercury left empty spaces, showing his artistic sense and attention to detail from a young age. It is assumed that Mercury inherited his interest in stamps from his father, Bomi, who was also a passionate collector. After Freddie's death in 1991, Bomi eventually auctioned both his own collection and Freddie's. Over the years, these collections have been exhibited around the world, from Prague to Australia, showcasing not only stamps but also a little-known side of the iconic musician's youth. 3. Mercury personally designed the Queen logo. Many musicians create their own logos, often out of necessity before signing a record deal when they don't have the funds to hire graphic designers. Yet most band logos are relatively simple. The Rolling Stones have the tongue, Metallica, Kiss, and AC/DC stylize their names, and Black Flag and the Red Hot Chili Peppers use minimalist symbols. Nirvana opted for an eccentric smiley face, but Queen stood out with a logo closer to a medieval coat of arms. It represents a phoenix with outspread wings and a snake-like tongue flying over a stylized letter Q, adorned with a jeweled crown at its center. Around these elements are representations of the zodiac signs of each band member. Guitarist Brian May's sign, Cancer, is symbolized by a crab perched at the top of the Q. The lions John Deacon and Roger Taylor are framed by roaring lions, while Freddie Mercury's Virgo sign is represented by fairies sitting below. This complex work of art was created by Freddie Mercury himself. His art school training gave him the skills needed to design such a logo. The original, simpler version first appeared on the inner sleeve of the band's first album and evolved over time into the more elaborate and recognizable emblem we know today. 4. Freddie refused to have his teeth fixed because he thought they helped him sing. Don't be embarrassed if you find yourself focusing on Freddie Mercury's teeth every time you see a photo of him. He had a prominent overbite caused by 4 extra teeth called meshidins. As Miller's music indicates, Mercury was very self-conscious about his appearance and often covered his teeth. Perhaps that's why he grew that iconic mustache. You might wonder why he didn't get dental work done. After all, Freddie Mercury didn't lack money. However, he believed that his extra teeth contributed to his exceptional voice. He thought the extra space in his mouth pushed his jaw forward, which increased his vocal range. Miller's music explains how Mercury's voice was truly exceptional. The singer could pass effortlessly between low, medium, and high notes, delivering them with precision and accuracy. Specifically, his vocal range extended from about 92.2 Hz to 784 Hz, covering F2 to G5, an incredible span of 3 octaves. For those not familiar with musical terms, this is extraordinarily impressive. Although the exact impact of Mercury's teeth on his vocal abilities is still debated, he clearly prioritized his vocal talent over aesthetics. After all, he didn't make a living from his looks. 5. Freddie and Michael Jackson didn't have the best experience recording together. On paper, a collaboration between 2 of the biggest stars in rock and pop, Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson, should have been a guaranteed hit. With both artists at the peak of their careers in 1983, they recorded 3 duets together. There Must Be More to Life Than This, Victory, and State of Shock. They were superb songs, Mercury commented in Mercury, an intimate biography of Freddie Mercury. But the problem was time, because we were both very busy during that period. Mercury's diplomatic response hides the quirks and tensions that marked their sessions. According to The Great Pretender, Mercury once called his manager in total frustration, exclaiming, "I'm recording with a llama. Michael brings his pet llama to the studio every day, and I'm really not used to it. I've had enough, and I want to leave." For his part, Jackson reportedly had his own concerns, particularly regarding Mercury's habits during the sessions. Reports differ on the initial goal of the recordings, but whatever the plans, the tracks remained unreleased for decades. Finally, in 2014, the recordings were unveiled. 6. Mercury was an introvert. When you think of Freddie Mercury, you probably imagine him commanding the stage in flamboyant outfits, captivating the audience with his powerful voice. However, contrary to his public persona, the superstar was actually quite introverted. Those who were close to him, including friends, family, and collaborators familiar with his private life, describe him as shy and introspective, a far cry from the exuberant personality he displayed on stage. He wanted to lead as normal a life as possible, said Mrs. Bulsara, Mercury's mother. There was his professional life on one side and his family life on the other. He would come home and ask, "Mom, are you making your special cheese biscuits?" Despite his fame, Mercury cherished his family ties, often inviting his mother to cook for his bandmates and crew. In real life, no one really knew Freddie, wrote Roger Taylor in a letter cited in Mercury and Queen. He was shy, gentle, and kind. He was never the person he was on stage. Similar sentiments are shared by others who knew Mercury intimately. Reinhold Mack, a former producer for Queen, described him as incredibly modest and shy, traits that often come up in descriptions of him. Dave Clark of the Dave Clark 5 added, "In his private life, he was the exact opposite of the provocative star. He was very thoughtful." Shivan. Mercury thought he was bad at the piano. Freddie Mercury's legacy as one of the greatest rock frontmen is indisputable, often topping lists for his electrifying stage presence and incredible vocal range. His ability to captivate an audience, as shown in the iconic 1985 Live Aid performance, showcased his near-magical talents at their peak. Surprisingly, Mercury harbored insecurities about his piano skills, a crucial part of many Queen hits. Songs like Somebody to Love, Killer Queen, We Are the Champions, and Crazy Little Thing Called Love were composed on the piano and feature the instrument prominently. The opening notes of Bohemian Rhapsody are among the most instantly recognizable piano sequences in music history. Despite his mastery, Mercury often invited guest musicians to play keyboards during Queen concerts. This allowed him to focus on his role as a frontman, where he excelled at captivating crowds with his charismatic stage presence. If this story changed the way you look at rock history legends, please subscribe and like our channel. We are unearthing the history they tried to bury. Let's plant the seeds for the future. The next treasure will be revealed soon.